You trying to get crazy when they sing? Don't you know I'm loco?
He's like, you got to clean the restroom. you got to follow these records. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, we just can't get anybody in here because everyone wants to be a radio star. Like, I don't want to do it. I want to do it for the music. Like, my intentions were always to be just the voice. I didn't want to be in front of the camera. I didn't want to do any of that stuff. I just wanted to play music for the people, talk to them on the radio, and that's it.
What's happening, everybody? This is Bobby Ruiz, a.k.a. Bobby Tribal, and once again, it's time for that Lower Left podcast. We're right here in San Diego, California, at 17th and Island, beautiful East Village of downtown. And today, damn, Johnny, we're both kind of nervous because we've got this guy's kind of...
It feels like we're getting our eval, right? Like we're gonna get evaluated.
You know, he came in already and he was asking about the mics. He was asking about the cameras. He was like, "This is what he does. He's a professional. He's got a golden voice, and he's known worldwide for his radio show. He's a local cat. Well, he's not. He's local now. So we're claiming him.
It's been 20 years.
Yeah, San Diego claims him already.
There you go.
Yeah, so he's a local dude. I would call him a local celebrity because he is. Javier the X-Man.
Hey, how you doing, man? Thanks for inviting me.
Did you guys hear that? Did you hear that? Hear that voice?
Hey, but that's my true voice, though. That's
he'll leave a message on my phone and we'll talk. I'm talking down the phone. I go, hey, Javier, it's me, dude. You're not on the radio.
It's a 30-second commercial.
Yeah. Whenever he talks, it sounds like you're listening to the radio. Badass. It's good to have you,
man. Thank you so much. I heard a lot about this podcast. So when you said, "Hey, you want to come on by?" I'm like, "Heck yeah,
hell yeah, man!" And thanks for coming and checking it out. But you're an interesting dude too. I know you got quite the story. You do a lot of cool stuff.
Can we cuss on this podcast?
Yeah, you could say shit, ass, whatever.
I think it's over here.
You could say whatever you'd like. Johnny's performing some maintenance on the mic.
Yeah. Just need duct tape.
All right. Is that okay? Wait, it's falling still.
I think that's what.
No, it's because all the. Should we start over?
Yeah, if you want.
Here, you want to wrench that down?
Yeah.
Let's see.
I wonder why it's doing that. It's never done that before.
I'm telling you, dude. It's like. Hey, Johnny, did you watch Peaky Blinders?
No.
Did you watch Peaky Blinders?
No.
Oh, man. There's some new ones on the BBC that I've been kind of going through some different channels.
There it goes.
There it is. All right, I'm not going to touch it.
We're going to start. I guess should we start over? Yeah, so that way the girl in the Philippines doesn't get, or whoever's doing the editing doesn't get confused. All right. Don't look at me, Javier.
Don't look at me.
Don't look at me, puppet.
Look at me, Javier. Okay. Ready?
Ready.
What's happening, everybody? This is Bobby Ruiz, a.k.a. Bobby Tribal. And once again, it's time for that Lower Left podcast. We're right here in downtown San Diego in the East Village on the corner of 17th and Island. And today, Johnny, we got my man Johnny Be Good's here. He's back.
Yeah, I'm back. I was sick for a little bit. Not the COVID.
And then you were in.
And then I was in Miami.
Yeah, Miami.
Yeah, living my best life.
Yep. It was spring break.
Spring break. Yeah, still doing it. No, I wasn't out there for spring break. But.
And this is kind of, we're a little bit nervous and we were kind of being evaluated here by our very special guest who knows a lot about, audio production, microphones, cameras.
Decibel levels.
All of that. So we have to come correct with this one. He's the man. He's a local cat, and we consider him local, even though originally he's from up north a little bit, but I think we're claiming him here in San Diego now. But local icon, celebrity type. Everybody knows this dude, Javier the X-Man.
Hey, how you doing?
Q Javier.
Was that okay?
Yeah, that was great, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Introduction like no other, man.
There you go.
Right on. Thanks, Javier. So I got a green light to keep going.
Yeah. Wait,
So-
we're gonna flip it right now. Javier's gonna interview us.
Oh, he was yeah. So anytime you want to take over, but this dude, yeah, you've definitely heard his voice if you're from San Diego, or not just from San Diego. From you broadcast all over the world, don't
Yeah,
you?
man. Got listeners everywhere. Of course, the internet, like you have an audience that's beyond local now. So again, listeners and followers from like Texas and Philadelphia and Miami. It's amazing.
And you're on TV every Monday.
Monday I'm on TV, local TV or
News.
Fox 5. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so tell us a little bit about your radio show, the one that's broadcast internationally, because you have a couple of them that you do, right?
Right. I do like a daily one, and then out of San Diego, which is just like a kind of like a RB, old school kind of fusion, little rap, more popular music. And then my Sunday show, that's the one that you're talking about. Gosh, I've been doing it since like the early 90s.
And what's that called again?
It's the X-Man's Oldies Show.
That's right.
And, it used to be the Sunday night oldies show. And then I just figured, I'm going to put my name on it because I've been doing it for so long. And it's got, everyone listens to it. It's on a Sunday. It's programmed on a Sunday, but I didn't want to be limited in case stations had picked it up and like, we want to put it on Saturday night. So I just marked my name on it and, been doing it like I said, since the early 90s from San Francisco. And I was doing it for a little while in LA. And then when I got to San Diego is when it just started blowing up even more. And I don't know the history of San Diego radio, but people just love this music here in Southern California. So, being an out of towner and getting that much love, like, oh man, this guy's playing this music. That's our music that you've never really heard on the radio. I mean, you heard the commercial stuff and Art LeBeau has a legacy and Wolfman Jack and Huggy Boy, but then here's a Chicano.
That's right. Now there's Javier the X-Man.
Yeah, we live in North County, so I was raised in Escondido, right? We would get KRLA, so we listen to 1110 a.m., where they would play that type of music. But down here, there was nothing like that. It was just regular R&B, regular rock and roll oldies, stuff like that, which are good too, but nothing like what you play.
Which I find interesting because Tijuana, there was a time when a lot of this music was coming out of Tijuana, with the DJs. They would, but I guess not that type of music, right? More soulful and R&B and rarities.
Yeah,
here.
I would say so. I mean, there was a station. I don't know what it is. I think it was on FM, but like one of the like early stations or the early numbers that would play like Freddie Fender and stuff like that, and all the bands from TJ.
What's the trip is I didn't know about Art LeBeau until I found the CDs. He had his oldies but goodies collection CD. Well, I kind of knew about him because he had those records growing up, but vaguely. And then as you get older and like, oh, this guy's a legend. He's been doing this stuff for a long time, and he owns the rights to the music, and he owns, and he had his own records.
He owns the right to the music, rights to the music.
All that music, all his compilations. But he was a good savvy businessman. So he built his empire. But it wasn't until I got to LA and I was like, oh, this guy's Art LeBeau, this guy. And I got to meet him and admire his career. And that was like, wow. And I told him a story too. I said, my mom has all your oldies but goodies, music collection. And he's like, she does? I said, yeah, cause they were selling that stuff out, in the 60s and 70s.
The ones that are like have the gold stripe on them.
Yes, they have the gold and the oldies but goodies.
Yeah,
yes,
my parents have those too.
So
everybody had them.
Right.
I have them too. Like,
were they really that old back then?
Well, you know what?
The oldies part, the music was
that's
not super old, but it was like 50s,
bit.
mostly 50s, 60s, I think. And then that came out. I think those may have came out like maybe mid to late 70s, early 80s.
Right.
I mean, am I right?
I'd say 70s.
70s?
Yeah. So what happened was Art LeBeau was, he, like I said, a savvy businessman. He got all this music, and a lot of them were hits, and a lot of them were not hits. And he would sandwich those records, because you would buy the album, and he would sandwich the hits with non-hits, and those songs became hits.
Because of him. Because
he would package. I mean, they were already played out. They were on the radio. They shot up the charts. But then he got, these songs. And a lot of them were rarities. And he would just put them together and put put them on compilations, right? Because people love compilations. They like a mix of music, and he would sell them. But he did it. He owned his own company. He owned the rights to the music, and so he made a lot of money.
I guess a part of that is the oldies. There's only so many, and obviously you can't make any more. So now, well, when we were listening to oldies, they were 20 years old, right? 20 back then or whatever. So where's that line now? So it's oldies and it's old school, right?
Right.
Am I right? I mean, you're the expert.
Here's how I define. I define oldies like anything from the 50s, 60s, part of the 70s, and then when you start getting into like
what would be considered an oldie from the 70s?
I would consider
like Tierra.
No, Tierra was 80s.
Were they?
Yeah, but it had that oldie sound. I mean, the song was Tierra. The hit song was a recopy or a cover of an Intruder song. But that 70s soul, there's that sound that you can't really define it. I don't define it by numbers and saying, okay, from 1967 and 1968, it's kind of like a feel.
I think it's the analog versus digital, as well as live instruments versus, electronic music. Like once the electronic keyboard was started to be introduced, like it had a different feel, a different sound.
See, but I consider, so I used to do a show back when I was 16 years old called Before 84, and it was all the music that was from 1970.
When you were 16 years old?
16 years old.
You were doing a DJ show?
I was doing a radio show.
Wow.
At a community radio station. This is how I fell in love with this. Music. I fell in love with music at a very, very early age. My mom bought music. She had Nat King Cole. She had Elvis. She had the Beatles, Frank Sinatra. She had the Oldies But Goodies records. She had, all these types of music. She had Los Relámpagos del Norte. She loved Chente. She had Javier Solís. So she kind of brought me in with all this kind of music. And so I just absorbed it all. And so I fell in love with the music. But when I was 16 years old, I had all this music. But you can be a DJ because cost a lot of money to have a DJ equipment back in the day. You had to have some money, or you had to try to get someone to loan you the money to have turntables and a system to DJ. And so all I could afford is the records, which were like $2-3 a pop for 12-inch records, or $5 for an album. And so I would just buy the record. And the 45s were like $1.45 back then, back in the 70s. So I would just buy music and just collect the records.
Do you still have some of that stuff from when you were 16?
I still do.
You have all of it?
I have all of it. Most of it. Yeah, I've lost some in my travels. In the radio business, you just travel from one city to the next. Who's going to have you next? And so I've lost some. I've had to sell some.
And that's a big accomplishment in itself, is you being on radio and being in the same market for so long, because you just got to go wherever, once your contract's up or whatever, you just find the next gig wherever it may be. And what better place than San Diego?
Oh man, this is a dream come true, man. I'm so thankful to be in San Diego. And
hey, man. There's no place better.
There isn't, man. Yeah. Really, it's a beautiful city. I remember telling my wife, we're only going to be here 2 years, and then we'll head back to LA, or we'll go to Chicago, or back to the Bay Area. And, when the opportunity came, I was like, no, you know what? I like this place. This is a really beautiful city. And, I felt welcome coming to San Diego, being an out of towner. It was hard because no one knows who the hell you are. And all they know is your voice, and they don't know what your intentions are, because there's a lot of shady people out there. And I'm always want to say that I'm true to who I really am. What you hear on the radio is who I am off the radio. And so, I don't fake the funk. So if I'm going to be honest on my show, you're going to see my honesty out there on the streets. And so, it was a struggle to try to, gain friendships and meet people and navigate that especially when you're from Northern California.
Yeah.
Still, some people still have that mentality.
How long you been in San Diego? Like 20 years?
21 years.
Yeah. So I guess originally you're from there.
Yeah.
From Salinas, right?
Originally from Salinas, and that's where I started.
Shout out to the Dead End Brothers. Yeah. You got to do it, man. Those dudes are the shit from Salinas. Yeah.
Yeah. There's originally from there, and then just collected music, and so I've been carrying those crates of records, those 45s, cool. All those years. I just laugh because, you know, who does that, you know, but it's my, the music's always been my passion. So, you know,
so out of all the genres that you've experienced since you've been DJing since you were 16, which I know are your favorite like decades or decade? And then what do you think of the new stuff? Like what you're hearing on the radio, or what, you know, compared to new compared to old, without like hurting anybody's feelings. You know what? Or you know, I know you got to keep your job.
No, you know, I love oldies and I love old school. That's just, it always
so
speaks to
50s to 80, mid 80s, somewhere in there.
Well, so let me show you the breakdown, how I look at it. Okay. So like 50s, let's say all the way to about 60s is, to me, is like an oldies, and then it kind of goes through some of a metamorphosis of production's a little better. There's not a little, the audio's a little better, but it still has that oldie sound. You know, that Bloodstone Natural High, it's got that soulful sound. But then you start getting into the 80s, and that's when the electronics started coming into play. Like a lot of the electro funk, which was part of what the hip hop culture was. Groups like Midnight Star, the Whispers, you know, Cameo. It's got that little bit of funk, but also they're using different technology. They're experimenting a little bit. Still funky as hell though, man. You just listen to that stuff. And so that to me was like before 84. It's still that's to me, that's what I consider old school up until, let's say, the late 80s. And then you start getting into the New Jack Swing era. And then it's like, which I consider all throwback. Anything from the 90s to me is considered throwback music. You know, is what the younger generation calls throwback, like the Biggie Smalls, the Tupacs. To me, that's like a throwback sound. And then you got the 2000s and what the younger generation's listening to now. And, but I love it all, man. I'm not a music snob, and I think that my generation or my music's better than everyone. I think what happens is, and you got to give credit to the African American community. They're always pushing the envelope when it comes to music. They invented this stuff. So they keep going and they keep pushing it. They don't just stay still and then like, okay, this is the way we're going to sound. Every year, every generation continues to push the envelope of making their music, and it's their music. And then everyone follows along and tries to copy or emulate them on their sound. And so, I mean, to me, it's all, whether I love it or don't, you know, I think it's.
Is there anything new that you like? Cause see, I have a hard time. I mean, I can't say there's a lot of new stuff that I'm feeling, you know, maybe in the last, you know, 5-10 years, there's maybe a couple handfuls at most. Is there anything new that came out like within the last 5 years that you're like, this is a shit?
You know what I really like is the soldies is what I want to say. Johnny was the one, to me, you coined that phrase
a long time ago.
You said soldies, and I remember you saying that. I'm like, yeah, you know, that's right. Soul and oldies. And it was all these new artists, these young artists that were coming out with that sound, and they were making it their own. They've of course took the cues from the 60s and 70s, that sound, but they made it their own. They wrote their own music. They did the instrumental. You know, they wrote the notes. They found the sound. Sometimes I think it's a little bit contrived when they produce in the studio, because you're able to just, on a computer now, is produce a whole album, and it'll sound like you're doing it in a $10,000 studio or whatever, what have you, or $100,000 studio. But, man, the music is so good. I mean, I love the artist, like the Sacred Souls and Joey Quinones and, the Delights and all that whole sound. They're discovering all this music that they all grew up with and writing their own music, making it original to that sound. But to me, it's all fresh. I just love it. And the artists that are writing their own music and producing their own music and recording their own music and putting it out there, man, I love it. I love all of it. And it transcends all backgrounds. You got white kids doing it. You got Mexican kids doing it. You got Puerto Rican kids doing it, and it's all soulful. And it's just, there's a lot to appreciate in this time. I don't know how long it's going to last, because music goes in trends. but I'm soaking it up all up. And I just, I love seeing them, especially when they perform live. Cause to me, when they perform live, they sound much better than they do on the albums that they have.
Mm-hmm. Most bands. What about hip hop? Did you get into hip hop?
You know what? I think the hip hop, like I said, it's evolving, and I think there's to me is when I look at the younger generation and they're digging the stuff that I'm playing on my radio show, or they're posting up a lot of music from my era, and I'm thinking they're either not in tune to what's going on right now with their generational music, or they're just, and that's the one thing about the internet is you could discover all kinds of stuff. So you go back 50 years if you want to. It's posted up on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these kids are in that era where the new music's coming out. It's trendy. It's cool. It tends to only last like 30 seconds on social media, but they're able to enjoy that and go, oh man, there was a song by Dr. Dre. Or I need to go back and check out this song from, the group, the Daz Band. And how did they sample that? And they're able so they're getting not only music that's new, but they're also getting old music all the time.
Yeah.
And it's all through the internet.
It's kind of like what we did with oldies. A lot of these kids are looking back, and if you look at where we're at now, 20 years later, 25 years later, what we were listening to was that old when we were in high school and early college years or whatever. So they're kind of doing the same thing. But on another note, like I was looking at a couple years back before Coachella was canceled, or I don't know if it was before it was canceled, headlining was Outkast. Like, okay, Outkast has been around a long time. They're headlining Coachella. Why is that?
Yeah, there's nobody new.
Because there's nobody, exactly. Who is going to go on after Outkast? Like, that's new maybe. But maybe now that could have possibly changed. But even if you look at, who's going to go on after Outkast?
I think when you look at artists like Travis Scott, I mean, he's a huge draw. People love his music. Mm-hmm. But then you get like I said, it's easy for this generation to discover the music that we grew up with, where we had a hard time finding the oldies because it was on vinyl record and they only had like one radio station or one show that was putting it out there.
And it happens in all genres, because my youngest son, he listens to a lot of rock. All the kids listen to a lot of rock music too. And they're listening to some of the rap rock. Like they're going back and listening to Korn and the Deftones and Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit and all this stuff that was like, well, what? It's not that old. Well, it kind of is. You know what I mean? It's you're looking 20 years ago?
Right.
Yeah. Something like that. So it's that whole same thing. So how did you discover music at home, and then you got a gig when you were 16, and then how did that DJ career take off from there?
So I collected all this music, and I had a friend who was in one of my classes. Shout out to Jose Arguin. And he was telling me that he was a DJ, local DJ. He had the equipment, and he did all the parties and all the high school events. And then he was telling me, he's like, I do a radio show. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, man, you got to check out my show. I didn't believe him. I thought he was full of crap. I knew this. I sat behind him for like half the school year, and then now he's just barely telling me. And I'm like, well, I got records. He's like, you do? He's like, yeah. He goes, well, check out the show. And, it's going to be on this night. And I'm like, okay. And sure enough, I listened into that radio station, which was, to me, that radio station was KHDC, was a station that brought in all the music that I've ever loved, especially when it came to hip hop. And I look back thinking that this little radio station was playing hip hop music. It wasn't connected to New York or anything like that, but we were getting, the music, knowledge and love for hip hop, the hip hop culture through this radio station. Cause this one guy was a DJ. His name was Bubba G Scotch, was going to New York and bringing the music to our small little farming town and blasting it on his radio show, which was the radio station I ended up working at. But anyways, my buddy Jose said, you got to come check this out. So I listened. I said, so the next day at school, I'm like, can I go visit? He's like, yeah, give me a couple weeks. And I went to go visit him. We used to go all the time, watch him. And then I said, how do I do this? And, he's like, you got to clean the restroom. you got to follow these records. Yeah. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, we just can't get anybody in here because everyone wants to be a radio star. Like, I don't want to do it. I want to do it for the music. Like, my intentions were always to be just the voice. I didn't want to be in front of the camera. I didn't want to do any of that stuff. I just wanted to play music for the people, talk to them on the radio, and that's it. And so, And so I went through their little grueling boot camp, and I passed. So I was able to start learning. And radio now is so different, but you had to get your license. You had to understand, you had to take meter readings. Yeah. In case something happened, you need to know how everything worked from A to Z. And it wasn't playing records and talking on the radio. You had to learn everything about turning on the radio station, turning off the radio station, taking readings, everything with the FCC, because everything was regulated. Now it's whatever. And I don't even think I ever hear the FCC ever come down on a radio station. But so there was a lot of stuff you had to do. And so 16, that's what I wanted to do. I should ride my bike to the radio station with my records and, just try to get on.
Oh, bike. You're into bikes, huh?
I've
just seen recently you kind of read on that whole, all these dudes rediscovering bicycles and BMX, but you were a real BMXer, huh?
Yes.
That's what I go, oh shit, Javier's out here pulling cards. I was like, all right, he's talking some shit. I'm like, that's good though. That's good. So you competed, right?
Yeah, I competed. I used to race bikes when I was a kid. So my dad and my mom, they're farm workers. They work their tails off, but they really wanted us to try to stay away from the trouble. And they knew the only way, like my dad was like, I got to get these kids involved. I got to get these brothers involved with things. If they're not, then they're gonna end up in the gangs and drugs and stuff like that. Same tell that everyone has to go through living in the neighborhood. And so my dad would just try to find stuff like, okay, what about that? What about that? Music has always been a constant, right? Because my mom always had it. So I grew up with the love of music because of her. And she always encouraged us to pick up an instrument. I played drums too when I was a kid. And so, when bikes were around, I remember, was it like late 70s?
You mean like the
BMX bikes.
Yeah.
And so, we would hear like, there's races going on. And my dad was like, oh, maybe you should try that, give that a shot. We don't have a race bike, Dad. Just go out there. He had bought me and my brother Huffy bikes. Yeah. And so we spray painted them black. And I remember going to the races for the first time thinking, I'm going to die, Dad, because I was in a black Huffy bike. It didn't have it had no traction on the pedals.
Yeah.
I was wearing,
regular, I don't know, street tires.
Yes. And man, I got smoked. And, these kids were just like, they had the gears and everything. And my dad said, I'm going to save money and we're going to get you guys to that level. And, like I said, anything to keep us away from the gangs and drugs. And so that kept me and my brother busy. We built some lowrider bikes. We did all that stuff.
So you eventually got a good BMX bike.
Yes. Eventually he eventually was able to save enough money and, he got us a bike. And, which I think to me were expensive, but you're a kid and you're like,
do you remember what they were?
My brother got a Diamondback and I got a Team Jag and I still have my BMX bike.
Oh shit.
Wow. I still have it.
Wow.
Yeah. And so,
been lugging it around.
I've been lugging it around.
Lugging around records and old BMX bikes. I'm out of here.
Just the necessities.
You know what it is? My wife,
and a microphone.
My wife thinks I'm crazy, but
you're not.
You know what? I see my dad work so hard and my parents work so hard to get me these things that I couldn't just get rid of them.
Badass. Yeah. Hell
and
yeah.
so
now the value it means more to you than so much. Right?
Oh man, it means a lot. I look at that BMX bike and it's a Team Jag. It was part of Mongoose. So Mongoose had two lines. They had the Mongoose, which everyone had, and they had the Team Jag. And, I remember racing. One time I was racing in the city of Watsonville because they would have these big ass races. Man, it was like a national. And
get down.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
You were in it?
I was in it. I was in it. And a little gordito, but we were racing against all these guys were coming in from all over the place. I mean, there was parents that were taking. I mean, it wasn't an expensive sport where you just needed a bike and you could just get a helmet and you would ride.
Yeah.
But there was people just, had the gear. We never had the gear. We were wearing our t-shirts and stuff in our Dickie pants or my Ben Davis pants, and they would always get chewed up. But we would race and it would keep us busy. But man, I loved being on the BMX track. And I actually, I took a second.
Oh wow!
Oh shit!
Yeah, and so
some national competition.
Yeah, and so it was. you know, they did section nationals, and they would give you these big ass trophies. And so I took second, and then the Team Jack people were like, hey, you going to join our team? I'm like, no, I got lucky because everyone crashed. But
You didn't join it?
No, heck no, man. It was just a fun thing, you know. Like I said, my dad just wanted to keep us busy.
Yeah.
And anything he could do for his boys, you know, to keep us out of trouble. Because, you know, you grow up in a little tough neighborhood and you have opportunities to do some crazy stuff. And you're like, okay, I don't want my kid to end up that way.
It's crazy, but like, you don't think about it, but like having a father like that, like, got you to where you're at. Like, you know what I mean? Having a positive male role model there, or positive male influence throughout your early years, like it helps you become a man, like a real man, you know, versus just pissing your life away and doing stupid shit all the time.
Right. Where it's easy to have that opportunity. Look, you want to give me more? Sure. I'm only at half.
But
we'll just put a reserve on that.
So what was it like growing up in Salinas, right? Because this was you grew up in the 70s out there?
Yeah, in the 70s.
Not to age you or anything, but
I'm an old man. You know, it was very, you know what, I look back and it was very, it's a farm working town. You know, we had Cesar Chavez come to our town, you know, and we were influenced by the UFW. It was working town. We had the military, where my dad was stationed when he was in the military there at Fort Ord, and but it was an agricultural town. It was an agricultural town. You had the workers and you had the people who owned the farms, and that was it. And then you had the military people, a part of that as well. But it was an agricultural town. It was a small town, you know, environment. There wasn't, you know, we didn't have Tijuana. You know, there wasn't like major city events and things like that. It was just a small working town. And majority of the lettuce came from Salinas, strawberries, artichokes, all that whole Salinas Valley. And when I explain people about Salinas, because like, where are you from? Salinas, like, where the hell's that at? And like, John Steinbeck wrote about Salinas all the time, Mice and Men, things like that. But it was just a small town, and it had its troubles. You know, it had its
like every town in California, like pretty much,
right?
That wasn't like a rich city or anything, like not La Jolla or Del Mar, but all the neighborhoods, everybody had their issues.
Right.
But Salinas I've been there a couple times. I mean, just drove through, checked it out, you know. Seems like a really cool little town.
Yeah, you know what? I
need to get up there with the Denim Brothers. Though they keep inviting me, like, come check it out and really do it with those guys. You know, but I just got to do it. But it seems like it was pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, no, I love my childhood. I was able to ride my bike from one end of the city to the next.
What's the closest bigger? Monterey's not close to there.
Monterey is about 15, 20 minutes away.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, so you have Monterey, you have Santa Cruz.
How close is Santa Cruz?
You have Carmel. I'd say about maybe a little over 30 minutes.
So it's not far from the beach, from the ocean.
It compared to San Diego, hell yeah, it's far. It's
but 15 minutes.
Yeah, about 20 minutes.
It's like from here to PB.
Yeah, but the beaches over there are cold as hell, man. It ain't nothing like this.
Yeah.
But, you know, we had the Fisherman's Wharf, and you could go. I think that's what the vicinity of Salinas, being in the valley, and then you have the Carmel, you have, you know, you have where all the wealthy people live, and then you have Monterey, and then Santa Cruz and Watsonville. All that.
Beautiful. Monterey is insanely beautiful. Pebble Beach, that 17-mile drive.
Yes.
All that's insanely. Carmel is Clint Eastwood was the mayor there for a while. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, beautiful. Like, I love that.
No, I have no bad words to say about it. Then
you jump on the one right outside of Monterey, and you come down the one
and go through Big Sur
all the way to Santa Barbara. That's, people don't understand how beautiful California is, like, and how much diversity there is. Like, you could be driving down the one and you feel like you're in the mountains and the forest, like huge trees and the beaches right there, and then you keep going and it just turns into the Southern California coastline. Insane. But growing up, I know you were into a lot of other stuff recently. Well, lowriding, right? When did you get into that?
You know what? Like I said, when I was a kid, my brother and I we'd see the lowriders all the time. You know, that's why we built a couple bikes. And we wanted to be a part of that. It was, the kids were doing it. Everyone in the neighborhood was doing it. But I was like 6, 7 years old when I saw my first lowrider playing baseball at the Little League place and at the fields. And I always wanted a lowrider. And I just remember seeing this primer, probably like a 67, cruising really slow around the park, blasting rock music. They weren't blasting,
Hell yeah.
Motown. I was listening to Steely Dan and
was that the 80s?
This was the 70s.
70s.
And so seeing that, I was like, man, I need that low and slow just around the park. And that's all they did is cruise around. But the cars were beautiful, and they hard seeing the hydraulics go up and down. To me, that was like amazing.
Yeah.
And but it was unattainable for a kid like me. And so I didn't get into I got into doing announcing and DJing and playing music at the car shows. Mm-hmm. And that's how I made my connection in the lowriding, because I couldn't afford it. But I could be a part of it somehow. I could hang out. Yeah. I could have my band play at a car show. I could DJ at a car show. I could make announcements at the car show. And so that's what I did. I made my connection that way, because I financially couldn't do it. Plus I had other dreams and aspirations. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to get the heck out of Dodge, because I wanted to grow and see what the world was out there. Sometimes when you live in a small town, it gets so comfortable and you're just like, oh, why would I want to go anywhere else? Right? What else is out there? But then you look around, you're like, I'm surrounded by fields. There has to be more out there. I see TV, I see Hollywood, I see LA, I see San Francisco. There's got to be more. And so that's my curiosity, is like, how do I get out of here? The only way was through higher education, getting accepted to a university, and then saying, okay, it's time for me to get on out. And
Where'd you go? I
went to San Jose State, which isn't too far, as like an hour away. And I laugh because I go to school and then I come home. You're back already? I'm like, yeah, because she made some good food. I could wash my clothes and then I could go again, Yeah. So, but I went to school there, and it wasn't far. My brother had went to school back east. And so I knew that was kind of tough financially with the family, him going off to school. So I'm like, you know what? Let me try this local university, and which turned out to be a blessing, because I had a great experience.
You study radio?
I did not study radio because I was doing radio when I was 16, so I kind of already knew it. I went into first marketing, and then I ended up doing public relations, because that combined not only radio and television, but it also combined writing as well. I was able to put all my strengths in the one major. And, I got to do video, I got to do film, I got to do radio, television, I got to do ads, I got to do marketing. And so it was really great opportunity to be, have the opportunity to go to school and to learn that stuff.
Finish?
I did.
Nice. Congratulations.
I did.
Did you do the commencement?
I did do. I did two commencement. I did Chicano commencement, which I was part of the Chicano commencement committee, so I got to organize that. And then I did the big commencement in my chanclas and my shorts. Yeah, my sarape hung over
with the VFW, not the VFW, the UFW pin
with yeah. So it was good. It was good to go to school and get out of there.
Nice. So then, when did you finally get a lowrider?
It wasn't until I got here to San Diego, because I always told myself, here's a funny thing is I did a lot of shows in San Jose. San Jose known for doing lowrider stuff.
And you can still go up there and do shows and get a lot of love up there. Huh?
Right. And so, but we used to do the DJing and announcements for the car shows, and 18, 19 years old, learn all this stuff. And I said, one day I'm going to get a lowrider, but I'm going to do it when I'm financially stable. When I'm able to buy a house first, have that, I kind of done it that way. I was kind of a little backwards when it came that way, because for me, it's like, I want to be like my dad, provide for my family first, then worry about me later. All these little things that I want in my life. And I couldn't do both. You just can't do both. And so when I got here, I'm like, I told my wife, okay, I'm in San Diego, I'm in Southern California.
Look at this
time
weather.
Yeah. Literally, look at this weather. I need to buy. I need to go out and look for a lowrider. And it's so funny. I had to go back to Northern California to buy my '63 Impala.
Yeah.
And I found.
You had a 3 first.
Yeah, '63. So I actually found it up in the Bay Area where I was from, and so it was kind of cool to bring that down over here and basically get.
So what happened to that one?
I built it, took it, brought it home, got it painted, did it all, really OG. And one of my fraternity brothers from college found it, saw it. And he's like, "Man, I want that car." I'm like, "Nah, you don't want this car." He's like, "Yeah, I want this car." He's like, "What's your bank account?" And he just stuffed a lot of money. And I said,
That'll
"John, I'm gonna put on a car trailer tomorrow. I'm shipping it to Northern California," and I shipped it.
That was it.
That was it. He didn't even mess around. He didn't talk. There was no haggling.
There was no. You didn't even give him a price.
I kind of give him a rage. I'm like, He's like, "Well, what's your price?" I said, "Oh, here's a number," and he just went a little bit beyond it for me not to say, "Take it." So
yeah,
he wasn't BSing.
Wasn't tripping.
Yeah, so he took it and drove it, and I think someone saw it, fell in love with it, and he sold it, and I don't even know where it's at.
So then I
had cash.
But what'd you do next? I know you've got a couple cars since then.
Oh yeah, I bought a '61 Impala, found it in Fallbrook. Some guy had it for like 5 years sitting in his garage, and I had cash in my pocket.
It's a beautiful car.
Man, I saw it and I'm like, "What do you think?" I went with the Duke's Car Club. Always, they were like, "We'll go with you. We'll go check it out." Because you're still learning about cars and what to buy and what not to buy. And so we saw it. And I'm like, I put some cash in his face, and he's like, "Okay, it's all yours." And I brought it home, brought it to San Diego, and started stripping it instantly that same day.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting.
That dash is real nice.
Well, then I saw your 61, his 61.
The way you did the dash was really nice too. Is that candied or is it?
Yeah, it's flake.
It's flake.
Yeah.
Chico do that?
Chico did that.
Yeah. Car's bad, dude.
Yeah.
And you're running true spokes, huh?
I'm running original true spokes.
I love 45 spoke true spokes.
Yeah, they're the original true spokes. And I found those because I was looking for so when I'm building my car, I kind of look back at when I was a kid.
Yep.
So I'm building these dreams that I seen as a kid, in my life right now. And so I saw true spokes. And so, this is like 2010, and I was looking for the true spokes, and then I don't even think they even had them being made yet. Mm-hmm. And someone said, "Hey, there's a guy in San Fernando Valley that has some in his backyard. Hit him up." So I just went out there. And,
who was he?
Man, I don't even know who it was.
Did he have a bunch of wheels?
I don't even recall. But he had.
That's where I got mine out in Pacoima.
Yeah, something like that. So I went out there and
Freaky Tales.
No, it wasn't Freaky Tales. It was an old OG lowrider guy.
Yeah.
Rest in peace of Freaky Tales. And I think Freaky Tales the one that told me to hit that guy. Dude. Yeah. And so I went there and gave him a couple $100. He said, "Okay, take them." They were all thrashed, and I just got them all redone. And man, I love. And so those are my childhood dreams. I remember seeing those spokes.
And that car is done.
The car is done as far as, I'm driving it. Yeah. I've driven it to Santa Maria a couple times in the rain. I built that car to drive. People want something pretty and nice. And I said, I'll do a little bit of that, but I really want to drive the car. I really want to enjoy it because tomorrow I could die.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just built it. Johnny he has a 61 and he used to drive it all the time.
Johnny's got the best philosophy when it comes to his cars. You see Johnny's kind of, that 36 Packard convertible.
Yeah.
And he just can't stop hitting the switches on side to side.
I know, it's stupid.
Have you tried to three-wheel? Have you tried to three-wheel that car?
I have, but it's... So I have it to go lower, right? So I have 14s in the back, like really long cylinders, but it's still not high enough. Yeah, because the front only has 6s.
So you tried, that was your intention.
Yeah, because the cylinders in the front...
Imagine how crazy that would have been.
It's dumb. You ruin your white walls that way. All my white walls are all fucked up.
But he's got that 61 rag too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So story on that, I bought it in 2002 for $2,000.
Wow.
61 convertible with a 4-door parts car. And the guy I bought it from, I wish I had money. I was 20 at that time. Had a 60 convertible and a 58 convertible, each one for $2,000.
Wow, man, you stole that
right
car.
there in
and he could have bought the
58
58 rag too
convertible.
for
Yeah.
$2,000.
It's stupid. I don't know what I was thinking. I should have got that one.
I
Should have got them all.
I remember getting my car in Fallbrook in that guy's house, and I'm like, "Where's all the parts?" Because it was kind of partially done. He's like, "Oh, they're right there." He points to a garbage can, and all you see is the trim coming out of the garbage can. Yeah. The pinche dash is in there as well.
Wow.
I still took it. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna build this car. And
well, now they're like 40 grand, all fucked up.
I know.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
This is stupid.
That's crazy. Hey, so on another note, still low riding. I know you also got a 50 Fleetline.
51
Fleetline.
2-door.
That you looks like you're having fun with that one right now.
Oh man, it's a lot of fun. It's a big headache, but that's another car that I dreamed of. I saw as a kid. So it had to be a 51. It had to be a 2-door. It had to be a Fleetline. It needed to have that curvature in the back. Yeah, man. So it's another car. Even though people keep hit me up like, can I buy it? Can I buy it? Can I buy it? Apparently they're hard to find.
Yeah.
So I bet you in California it is, but it's one of those cars that I've been trying to get going. Put some airbags in it.
Close.
Didn't do that. Didn't do the hydros.
You're close with this one, right?
You know what? It just needs to go. I told my wife, I just need to drive it so I could get all the kinks out and then take it apart and go get it, painted and redone. Like I already got the car's done already in my head. I know exactly what I want. I know exactly how it's going to look. It's not going to look like every other car that you see out there. It's going to look just loud and crazy.
Yeah.
So
you're into, well, you know what? Let's do the Japan thing first. So we've been to Japan together, and we've all a bunch of us from San Diego were out in Japan. It was a Classic Legends show, right?
Yes.
In my opinion, probably the best car show I've ever been to. What'd you think of that? The low riding, that whole scene out in Japan, and that experience at Classic Legends, and just with what you saw with the culture, the people, and how much love they showed. They showed all of us.
You know what? They're amazing people, man. And I want to thank you for inviting me to go out to Japan and be a part of that. Cause people need to understand that, there's, we don't live in a 4-block radius. I mean, the world is out there and they're watching everything we're doing, and they're taking it. Japan takes it up 20 notches of what we do here. The things you see now, you see cars here right now in the United States. These guys were doing it 10, 15 years ago. The paint schemes of the cars, the motors, the hydraulic systems, and I believe the culture, Japanese culture, they're very they're detail oriented, and they really, really are sticklers to doing it traditionally, but they also want to add a little bit of their touch to the way lowriders are and how they function, because they will drive their cars to death. You can't be, you can't be a poor dude being a Japanese lowrider. You got to have some money, or you got to have full knowledge on how everything works, because it's so expensive. The parts are so expensive. But that experience right there, very welcoming people. What I loved about them is how they love and respect the Chicano culture. They love and respect the lowrider culture of the United States. They love America, but they take the cues of what they see here and they make it their own, and they go beyond what you could imagine what we do here. The paint, the way they do the paint, the way they're really like a little bit more throwback than anything. Yeah. But
less limitations.
Yes.
See, I kind of, and I'll get some shit for this, and I've gotten some shit for this before. What I'm about to say is, I think that if there's, I really have a lot of respect for the traditionalists, the people that are, 13-inch Daytons, and you have to do it by the book this way. But what you're gonna end up stagnant, because everything's gonna look the same. Everything's going to have hydraulics with 13-inch Daytons, and whatever, there's only so many colors in a color chart. So you've seen it before. Chances are you've seen it before. So without people, those like they do in Japan, taking risks, and doing something different and inspiring people, kind of like what the Tovars did with that 57 that they just released, body dropping that thing, and, true spokes and and kind of changing the game a little bit. Like, oh shit, like that 57 got more play than pretty much anything I've seen in the last year. And
that's an amazing car.
It's an amazing car. It's a Tovar build, of course, but
they always build amazing cars.
But it was just going out the box a little bit. No one had done it. You still don't, in Japan, you and I have seen, and we all three of us have seen body dropped Impalas. You saw one out here, that pink one came out last year?
Yeah, last year.
But still the ones
Mind of Messia or Mind of...
Yeah. And that was cool. But, what's going to change the game, I think, is people not change the game in a negative way. Like I said, I have a lot of respect for the traditions and the traditionalists, and it's not easy to do. But I think a lot of it looks the same, especially if you're doing a stock color. You want to do an original color Impala and you follow the hardcore rules, which are, that's cool. But there's going to be 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 cars that look just like yours. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing about Japan. When we went to the car show, everyone was different. They had their own lane. Mm-hmm. It wasn't all the same. They didn't look the same.
They were doing shit with paint. They were doing little body mods. They were doing body drops. They were doing, interior flips, like shit that you were like, and they were taking cars that we wouldn't even think about fucking with. And they were doing some sick shit. But I think,
they did that with that Nomad.
Which one?
They did. It's like a green and white Nomad that was there. It was under the lights. Oh man, that engine.
I think, that was I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, there was. Then the bombs, what they were doing with bombs, like the customs that they were doing out there was some shit that I ain't seen out here. Like
the paint jobs.
Yeah, paint jobs and the way they were laying them out.
Well, that 58 was out there at that show. The one that's all engraved or whatever.
Like, who had seen the whole fucking car engraved before?
This was what, 2014, 2015?
We're going to go, dude. If the Moon Eyes Classic Legends happens again, we're going, right?
I'm going.
Okay, so usually it happens in December. So last time I was over there, was for Moon Eyes. And it was in Yokohama in December. Moon Eyes is a great show too. It's nothing will compare to Classic Legends, because that was just and what was really, I think, extra cool about that is from San Diego, there was probably 20 people, maybe 25,
maybe more. There was like 40, 50.
So Amigos were out there. We were out there.
The crowd was out there.
David was
crowd
out there.
was out there. Which David?
Aguilar.
David Aguilar. So maybe 30,
50. I'd say.
You think?
Yeah, there was a lot. Like the Chols were there. A couple guys from the crowd were there.
But how many guys from the crowd?
Rick.
5 or 6.
Well, it wasn't a big number.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So that's my point. Like, and the guys from LA, probably about that same number as San Diego, because we represented pretty hard out there at San Diego for that show. And there was people from LA, but I think we were just as deep as they were out there. So maybe 100 people. But those 100 people came back and we were like, holy shit. And everybody was blown away. So if that, if it ever happens again, you're going to get half of San Diego and half of LA out there for that show. But from what I understand, it shouldn't, or it might.
Why though, man?
It was problems. From what I understand, there was some conflict or disagreements between the partners, the two people that were doing it. But you should do it out there, Javier. Go ahead, I'll put you in.
Yeah, go do all the hard work.
Money always has to screw shit up, right?
Yeah.
Damn it,
yeah.
Greedy motherfucker. You know what though? I mean, I have to like thank you for inviting me to be part of that crew, and I got to hang out with Johnny.
Yeah.
We got to do
Bird's Pain.
Oh, were you there? When Bird and Carlos were going out at the bar, and then Bird, the coins.
That to me, that was like
tiny
best
bar.
trip.
The bar wasn't much bigger. Well, it was a little bit bigger than this room, but yeah, that trip was insane.
That was an eye opener for me, man. There was, I got to soak in the culture. I got to understand that me personally, my life don't, like you go to a country, you got to respect their traditions. This is their country. You ain't America anymore. This is how they do things, and you're just a guest there. And they were very welcoming, good people, showed us all around, didn't hold back, told us where we could go, took us to places. I mean, I think I got lost for freaking hours digging through records at record stores. And man, that was a joy. Yes, Shibuya, man, that was awesome. Seeing the multi layered Tower Records.
Yeah.
And
you could spend a whole day in there.
Dude, I got lost in that city, man. And then checking out the fashion and
Harajuku.
That to me, that shit was amazing, man.
Yeah. We'll go back.
I still talk about this to the day. You know, my wife's always saying, that's why because she's the one that said, you need to go. Bobby invited you, need to go check it out. They kind of know.
Yeah.
Who is the gentleman? I still gotta send him something and show him my love and appreciation. The one who took us there.
Satoshi,
yes.
It was Satoshi and then his boy Nori. Those are like the main dudes out there that we work with. But it's man, it's, you know, just I guess, you know, just going back to what we were talking about, just that culture in general, they push the envelope, and I think they're at a point now is going as far as the car scene goes, not just lowriders, but lowriders and customs they're pushing us a little bit now, I think. You know,
but who's doing that besides the Tovars? The Albas
out here, yeah, you know, they're not afraid to do customs either. Like if you look at the 58 that they did, there's all kinds of mild custom work on it that you really got to eyeball that car to find it. Some of it is real in your face, but some of it is just detail that you're like, oh shit, this doesn't have, that's all one piece. Well, where are those bolts at? There's no bolts on this front end or whatever it is, you know, or look at the dash and there's, oh, that's gone. This is gone. And they've changed this to this. So you really got to kind of look at it.
You know what I find interesting is how they were able to do that. I mean, we're talking Japanese culture. There's no Chicanos over there. There's no lowrider lifestyle. And they were able to come here on their visits and
study.
And like I said, take it 10 times better than what we do here.
Have you ever seen them walk a car show out here or walk the swap meet?
I have.
They're like studying, dude. They're like quiet and they talk to each other and they'll look at each other and they'll be very polite and then they'll squat down and they'll look at something, you know, what the hell they're doing. And they're probably like doing math in their head or some shit. Like, damn. It's sick like that. So another thing I know, because you're kind of like me too, like your head goes all over the place. You get into all kinds of different shit. I know you have a love and a passion for jukeboxes.
Oh yeah, man.
You're sick with that, huh?
Dude, I can't get enough, man. My wife's like, you got another one? I was going to pick up another one in LA, two. And I told myself, nope, got to cut myself off, man. Because so all those records that I collected when I was a kid, I still have them. So one day, my wife's like, you need to get a jukebox. She was kind of half joking. And I said, you know, because she goes, I always knew you wanted a jukebox, but you should get one. Really? And I said, why? She goes, you got all those records. And she was absolutely right. Yeah. She gave me vision. She said, and she gave me her blessings. Like, okay, go out. And so I put all my records that I've collected and I put them on the jukebox. So they're like, I could play them when I want to. They're stored. No one could mess with them. And I just put a quarter in the jukebox.
You've got multiple jukeboxes.
Yeah, I got.
So which did you put them all in one jukebox? Or you spread them out?
I spread them out. I got my. So I got how many 60s, 70s, 50s?
How many jukeboxes do you have?
I have right now 7.
Damn,
I know.
Yeah.
How many of them like really work?
I'm gonna say 4 of them work right now.
And, like where you could go in and push a number,
push like A4 or B9.
Yeah, that's the shit. That's so which is your baby, like the one that's like
what year?
Yeah, what year? What brand is? Like,
I don't think I've found my.
So what do you? Okay, so which one is your current baby, and which one is your dream baby?
My current. Oh man, that's really tough, man.
That's what like I do. Pick your kid. Tough, yeah.
Pick your kid. Which one do I at least like?
No, one you already have. One you got. Yeah, fine, right?
So a lot of these jukeboxes, you buy them. I buy them broken. And I have to figure out, thanks to the pandemic, right? I didn't have a lot of gigs. I didn't, half my gig as a DJ, you got to go out there and do these gigs and you're contracted to go to these events. And so I didn't have anything. And so, I got the bug when I bought my first one, had to fix that one up, figure it out.
Finding parts and stuff?
It's really hard. They don't even make, they don't make them anymore. You got to buy recycled stuff. And, just like, Japan always takes the lowriders, like Holland and Sweden, they're taking all the American jukeboxes because they love America. They love the Americana. They love the Elvis and the Beatles.
Yeah.
And so, you go to the UK and they've got, they ship these things in containers. They come out here and they go through the entire United States buying up these jukeboxes, and then they ship them over there, and then they rebuild them, and then they go up to anywhere from $6,000 to $15,000 to $30,000 jukebox. And they love them across the pond. And, my whole thing is I want to try to keep them here. So I try to find them. And,
is there a society like a jukebox?
There is, but it's died down because a lot of these guys that do jukeboxes, they're old timers now. So a lot of them have passed.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, shit, I'm an old man, but I'm like considered one of the young guys in this hobby because it's a hobby. No one really does it for money. They just do it. They're like me. They like their music.
You could flip them if you wanted to.
You could, and I've sold some of my jukeboxes. At one point I had 10 jukeboxes.
See how he avoided the baby question?
Yeah. The current one's gonna get mad. Yeah, they get angry.
Yeah. No, you know what? My favorite one I have is called the Seaberg 100R, and I only do Seabergs.
Is that a brand?
Seaberg is a brand. They were from Chicago. And here's something interesting. So they were from Chicago, and it was a homegrown company from Chicago, and they would make these jukeboxes. And the one that to me is very special is the Seaberg 100R. Has 50 records for 100 plays because they got an A side and B side. It's got the stereo. It's got the speakers in the front and the speakers on the side. And it's got its beautiful glass and things like that. But I just like the way it sounds. It's vinyl records, So, but the way that these companies they would build these jukeboxes. There was like several jukebox companies, and the mafia was heavily involved with jukeboxes.
Really?
This is how they funneled money. This is how they washed the money, because they would send out. They were tied into getting these jukeboxes out on locations, bars, restaurants, what have you. And they would put the record, they would get the records from the record company, put them in the jukebox, right? And then people would get their money, and how can you calculate all the quarters that were there? So they were laundering money. They were laundering money. There were some fronts there. The record companies used to print out like millions of records, and they're like, well, where they all go? They went in the jukeboxes, and they could actually, make a record become a hit record. Cause here's a new song from Otis Redding. Never heard this one before. Let me play that one. Oh man. And then you get the plays. It would actually, the jukeboxes actually mark how many plays do
they really?
Yeah. For the records being played. So you would be able to count the money. Yes. And so they would fidget that all the time to wash the money. And so there's so
the brand is called Seaberg?
Seaberg. So there's Seaberg, there's Wurlitzer.
Well, that's the most famous one, the Wurlitzer.
Wurlitzer, yes. And then you have
of the lights and the shape and when did jukeboxes start?
They started like I'm going to say, the ones that I'm familiar with in the 40s. So they had
that's 78. The one that had that big round front, the light up thing.
Yeah. Like Happy Days type?
No, the Happy Days was 50s, right?
Yeah, that's the stuff that
because that was Chicago too. So they had to have the Chicago jukebox because Happy Days was supposed to be in Chicago, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. The font.
Yeah. No, but I love the jukebox. I love that old technology.
Do you have one like the Happy Days one?
I do.
Whoa, that's badass.
I do. The ones where Fonzie used to hit it and then turn on. Yeah.
But do your records, being that they're so old, they have to be in good condition to put them in a jukebox, or does that trailing or the arm with the needle, does that stick better? How does that work? Because it plays sideways.
Right, it plays sideways. So some jukeboxes
play like this.
Yeah, some play like that and some play the sideways. Yeah. The Seaberg's always played sideways. But you got it. So it's got a weight. It's got the needle. It's got the arm, and you basically gotta check the grams, because you can't have a needle pressing too much on the record because you'll ruin the record, and you can't have it too light because you'll skip the record. So I'm constantly tinkering and trying to get it right. And sometimes if you don't, it's funny because if you don't use them, then they die.
Really?
Oh, if you don't function, because it's all mechanical and electrical, if you're not running stuff through it, you're not playing music, it just sits there.
Would you consider yourself a jukebox expert now?
No, I'm not.
For that brand?
Far from it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not
They're
even.
They're that complex?
They're that complex. I still have one. I have one in my garage that's that plays albums. I've been looking for this for a long time because they did albums.
And you can pick the song.
No, you
Just play the whole album.
Yeah,
side.
you could. Yeah, the whole album, side A, side B, and so it's kind of like I buy the books because they still got manuals to them, and you just read, and go on the internet and but I got one in the garage still taken apart. It's been taken apart for the last 6 months because I'm stuck, and I'm like, man, what do I do now? So I kind of leave it there because I get frustrated, and I'll come back and I'll tinker it. So when I hear the jukebox going and playing and it's playing music, I'm like, man, I just did it. So, cause I don't know any of it, I don't know about technology and that technology or electronics. It's all me just learning how to do it and reading a lot. So it's something, like I said, the pandemic kind of gave me an opportunity to kind of tap into that. My wife's like, where'd that come from? I'm like, I don't know. Where'd that hobby come from? I don't know. But the desire was just because I wanted to put all my records and play my, my records from back in the day, all the stuff that from Michael Jackson.
Johnny collects a lot of 45s. Yeah. So that's the baby that you have.
Yeah, the Seaberg 100R.
Okay, so which is the one that you'd really like to acquire?
I would like to acquire. There's a one called it has 100 records. And so 200 plays. To me, the more of the records you could stuff in there, the better it is for me. Just because I could play all kinds of music, and it's the Seaberg. I think it's the 200 VL, and it's just, to me, I think it's got this really good sound system. You could play it really loud, and these were used for like
full restaurants,
restaurants and bars and
pool halls,
people used to use them for sock hops. And if you ever see that stuff in movies where people are dancing, that's how it was back in the day.
So do you put new speakers in them, or are they OG speakers?
OG speakers. I try to keep everything true to how they came out. And I just freshen up. Like I was looking for somebody who does speakers here in San Diego. Could not find anybody, not even in LA. So I had to ship my speakers to the jukeboxes to a guy in New York who still does it. And people say, yeah, you could do it yourself. This guy's been doing it for decades. So send it to him. What would probably take me about 8 hours to do, he probably did in a half an hour, and then he shipped it to me, and it sounds perfect, man. But so there's a lot of that stuff. So I try to keep it the way it sounded. And I'm an audiophile, meaning I'm totally into the sound. And I already know that whatever's coming out of that speakers, that's how it sounded back in 1954. Like I'm not trying to get the best clarity.
Nice.
It's got that warm sound.
A little bit of
little
dirty, but a little tiny pops in there maybe.
Exactly.
Especially when it first goes on.
Yeah, and you hear that.
Yeah.
I love that song.
So beer, you've got a beer company that you're also involved with.
Yes, Exteca.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So, man,
you're all over the place,
man.
Whoa.
You know what?
When do you sleep?
You know what? I've always liked beer, but I'm not like, I'm not like a lot of these other guys who are totally into beer, super focused in the beer. I always just like a good tasting beer. Mm-hmm. And being in San Diego, I have the opportunity to taste a lot of good beer. There's a lot of great breweries here in San Diego.
Yeah.
Or was, because a lot of them have fallen because of the pandemic or one thing or another. But, I've always wanted to do something that you call your own, and I've always thought that, the other beers that are out there, that people were drinking, it's like, come on, man, we're Chicanos. Let's do a Chicano beer, owned and operated, where we could, look for a taste that's gonna fit perfectly with food, carne asada, a fish taco. And so, my friend Mario and Fred and I, got together, and we're like,
real good dudes, real good dudes.
And, we just had this idea, like we wanted to do something. And we wanted to do beer. Like I said, I pushed, let's do the beer. And we were, lucky enough to, come up with the idea. It's Exteca because, it needed an X in front of it. So,
now I get it.
So now you know why it's Exteca. Everyone's like, where'd that name come from? Exteca. I had, and it's funny because people always like, where's that name come from? I don't see it in the encyclopedia of Mexico tribes. You know, it was like, so you know, I thought that having an X, put my stamp on the beer. Teca has that sound like the Tolteca, has that, and it sounds like Azteca, but it's not really spelled that way.
Really good graphics too. Is that Mario?
That's all Mario.
Mario gets down. He's always got down with the graphics.
And so we did, we set out to do something. Fred and Mario were good friends with one of the owners of White Labs. And we kind of went out there and spoke with her and kind of described what we were looking for. Like, we really wanted a good tasting beer, craft beer that, like I said, didn't make you full, that you could eat with something. Because a lot of times you drink a beer and you're like, oh, I'm full already. I had one taco. You want to just keep eating and drinking. Mm-hmm. And so that's that's how we set out. We that was our mindset. Is like, how can we come up with the beer? So we were able to come up with that recipe. Fred has a nephew who is a brewmaster. And so we kind of, described what we were looking for. And so, which took a long time coming out with the formula or recipe for beer. Some people think, we just did it in the garage and that's it. But, we wanted to get it right for the first time. We didn't want to go back and, we didn't like the way that tasted, or it's just not, it needed to have that taste. It needed to have the quality. And the ability
needed to have that X.
And needed to have the X. And it needed to have that, it needed to have like I said, be able to pair it with food. Yeah. Not feel like, oh man, I'm full. And so, we went with the Mexican lager, and man, it's been fun. It's been really, really fun.
And it's sold throughout like California, right? And other states as well.
So we do everything ourselves, self-distribute. We do all the branding, the marketing, everything ourselves. So everything's in-house.
I seen the trucks parked right up here in Sherman.
Yeah. So we try to, we took out to Northern California because that's where I'm at, and I know some people over there, and we've been able to sell it out there. But it just continues to grow. It's been a fun ride, and it's a lot of work, and it's a hustle. I mean, just like clothing, it's a hustle. You got to go out there, and because there's so many beers. And here, the thing about being in San Diego, and everyone's been so nice. All the big pros. We were able to meet a lot of good people here in San Diego, a lot of breweries, a lot of people who do beer. And we've been able to align ourselves with them and get advice and guidance on how to do it. Because there's not a lot of minorities in this space. And so it's really, really hard to navigate the beer industry. So that's why we wanted to make it. We wanted to be Chicano owned and operated, Latino owned and operated, and for us to do that, it's been a struggle. But we always say the beer's going to speak for itself. People, if you either like the beer or you don't like the beer, the beer's going to people are going to be fans of it or they're going to hate it. And we feel it's a good product, and so. We've lasted this long so far, and it's like I said, it's been a fun ride. And we were in Petco at one point. We were selling at Petco. That thing to me was big.
Yeah.
We were in a lot of restaurants, a lot of Italian restaurants like the beer. We're just trying to go out there and just do good beer and do a lot of these festivals and really showcase the beer. But like I said, we've been very lucky. We started with Novo Brazil, which is a big brewery. They kind of took us under their wings, and then when we kind of grew out of their facilities, we met with Peter at L. Smith, who kind of said, "Come and we'll take you under your wings and show you how to do this." And so we've had a lot of good mentors and a lot of good people who've guided us and supported us and continue to do so to this day. Like I said, there's not a lot of people who are minorities in this industry, and it's a really tough industry. Just like the record industry, people want to try to get in and make their own music, but they make their own music, but how do they get it out there? The distribution end of it.
That's the most important. Yeah.
We're learning that is the most important. And so we're just trying to get out there and do our thing. Everything is done guerrilla. And we laugh at that because we just use what we know through our past.
Fred has that background too. So does Mario. They both know about marketing and getting the word out. And like Mario's just a great graphic designer. And Fred, that dude's, as far as business and meetings and stuff like that, he's as solid as they come. So you've got a good team, man.
Yeah, it's just been like I said.
You just need good promo guys right here. We'll go in the supermarket in our shorts.
Can we change this?
We'll go in short shorts.
So what's next? Like, what are you working on? Anything that's in the works?
Man, you know what I've been? Man,
Come on, spill the beans.
He's got something. Look,
Yeah.
I need good artists. I need good cartoon artists. Anybody? You guys know anybody?
That we'll talk about that. If you're serious, then you already know that my network is your network.
No,
so
you know what?
whatever.
I just right now, just trying to stay relevant. I guess you'd say. In the radio's it's gotten smaller as far as listenership because everyone has opportunity to listen to anything anytime they want to, and so I think right now as a DJ, you're kind of seeing things change and people are doing podcasts, people are doing radio shows illegally because they don't own the rights to the music, and you're going to get pop. People always ask me like, why don't you do your own radio show on the internet? I'm like, man, you got to pay for the rights for that, for using the music.
Yep.
You got to pay that artist that's in LA that wrote that song, and people just do it freewheeling. And sometimes they clamp you on that and they'll say, you owe us $100,000 because according to our records, the song "Let's Get It On" was played 100,000 times on your podcast. So give us the money. But so everything's evolving. I think right now, as far as musically and radio wise and podcast, everything's evolving right now. And it's like where do you fit in that space? So it's always a challenge, but I think it's a fun adventure. I told myself when I was, when I got in this industry, I'm going to ride this wave until I fall off. I'm going to go 100% and have fun as much as I can until it's time for me to move on to the next chapter. So you still love what
you're doing, and your future is just moving forward with everything you're
doing. You know
right
what?
Now.
I love being on the radio. I love talking to the listeners. I love playing the music that I do. I love going to the events.
Loves lowriding. He loves jukeboxes. He loves
BMX,
tacos.
He loves records. He loves tacos. He loves
beer.
Yay!
It's positive, dude.
That's good, dude. That's good. Good for you. You're a blessed man.
No, man. Every day I'm thankful, man. I think I have gratitude every day. I'm thankful that I'm able to be in this position to do what I do, because a lot of people don't, man. They're miserable. They don't. They're not enjoying what life is there to take.
And people with and without money. Like, people have this misconception that these people that have a lot of money are the happiest people in the world. Well, you kind of got that fucked up, because it's not always the truth. It's just, it's about being happy and doing what you love. And sounds like you're excited about just what you're already doing and what the future brings. And that's, there's a lot of value in that. That's wealth.
Yeah, no, I'm always thinking, what can I do more? How can I grow as a person? And so as you get older, you realize that, man, that your true happiness is where it's at. Like material things, having the clout, having, millions of followers, or it really doesn't matter, man.
Right.
And we saw that in the pandemic, because you could just die and that's it. And so, as I get older, I realize, man, just, being centered and grateful, having gratitude that I'm able to wake up in the morning and do something that I love, man. I'm so appreciative of all that and thankful. And I'm happy. And I think that's to me, that's the true meaning of life is living your best life and being happy about it. And, trying to achieve that every day, working at it every day, not being complacent, because you could be easily complacent.
Absolutely, yeah.
But every day searching to be a better person, helping other people, giving people a chance, showing them the way, showing them the right way to do it, from your mistakes. And I think I made a lot of mistakes. And so I always try to, advise people or tell people, okay, I did that and it didn't work out for me. Here's why, but maybe if you tried it this way, it'll work better for you.
Yeah.
And, people always ask me about, I worked in the music industry for a quick second doing music distribution. And so that's what I get a lot of this younger generation wanting to, how do I get my music out there? How do I do this? And man, the thing is, you got the internet and you got these computers, man. You could do things without the record company and keep all the money.
Yeah.
And and sometimes you got to kind of just give these kids, the younger generation, advice and try to help them out. And at the same time, as much as I give them, they give me, man. I just I'm learning from them, and I think you got to be open. I never sit back thinking I know everything. I never say I'm better than anybody. I'm always learning, and I'm always trying to give, and at the same time appreciate my moment here, because tomorrow I might not wake up. Yeah. And so that's how I want to live my life. And so every day I try to achieve that and be in that place, not only for me, but for my family and others.
Right on. So how about shout outs? We're going to wrap this up. Who do you got shout outs for anybody? Anybody want to say what's up to?
I want to say, of course, what's up to the wifey, to my son, Daniel. Let's see who else out there. My partners, Mario and Fred, the Exteca family. You. Appreciate you. Appreciate Johnny
you
B. Too. The gentleman who coined soldies. All right. I'm going to tell you right now. That's the guy that coined that phrase. And I've said it on my radio show. Because
it was that scene back then. It's just something that came out of, the DJs here. I don't even say I'm a DJ. I'm going to say I spin with the guys from LA and the girls from LA. But,
where'd you get that?
It was with them, just hanging out with them. And
so you didn't coin it? Can I just say you coined it?
I don't know who did, actually. I know like the Southern Soul Spinners and like George Miller and Arlette. And
are they still together? Are they all still together? Some infighting,
Ruben Molina, like he's a big guy.
Love Ruben Molina.
Yeah, he wrote a book on the music as well. So it's all part of that. I don't know who it just started.
Yeah, shout out to the record collectors out there that are collecting these records and keeping this music alive. The listeners, the fans out there that are doing it each and every day. I love seeing them collect their music. I follow a lot of them on their music, and it's always good to see them peel back records beyond what you hear and dig deep. And sometimes it's like, oh man, these are treasures. Sometimes it's like, oh, it needs to be lost forever. There's a reason why that song has been lost.
Yeah.
Well, I don't care if that guy was from Philadelphia doing that song in his garage. It sounds like sucks. It still sucks.
It doesn't matter how old it is.
Yeah, and it's like some of the younger generation, they get really into that. And I'm like, man, no, listen to the music.
It says. It goes back to the rarity of it versus what the actual art is, right. Or the monetary value of it versus the art.
But a true record collector really appreciates that other end, and those are the people that I speak to that man, they really love that record. It speaks to the soul, and those are the records I like. Man, I get emails all the time. Can you play this? Can you play this? Some of the stuff I don't even have or never heard of. Yeah. So I'm like, send it to me. And people send me records and 45s, and I'll add them to the radio show. Of course, weave them in there, and then people are like, oh man. But man, I shout out to all the listeners, all the record collectors, all the music connoisseurs that continue to keep the music alive.
Right on. And Johnny, we got to make sure that we get the sound real tight on this one.
I'm gonna have to.
You know what I mean?
I'm gonna get an audio AI, so I'll get a computer.
Because we've got the sound guy. But thank you so much, Javier.
Appreciate it.
It was an honor having you. Really enjoyed our conversation. You're the man, dudes. We're proud of you down here, and you're one of those dudes that really brings a light to the scene and the community, and we respect you and we appreciate you, and thanks for making the time to be here today. And Johnny.
Yeah. Well, also too, the amount of memories that you created for everyone for your Sunday shows, like countless Sundays, barbecuing, hanging out with family, listening to songs. Back then, like early 2000s, I remember listening to you. My brother would reach out to you and share music with you as well. And, a lot's changed since then. Where now anybody can Google the song, which is great. So it gives more exposure to that music. But back to what I was saying regarding like the memories that are created, like they were memories from the previous generation that heard the music on the records themselves when they came out. And then now they get to enjoy them with their families, and it's going to keep going. So it's really a great thing.
Love it. Yeah.
Thank you, Javier. So we're going to wrap this Lower Left Podcast, 17th and Island. Javier, the X-Man. Can you say your name? Can you say that one time?
Javier.
Can you do that just one time? Damn,
I'm drunk. I'm drunk. I can't.
No, come on. You got it.
All right, here we go. What's up? It's Javier, the X-Man.
That was a soundbite.
That's it. That's it. Thank you, brother. We love you. Thank you. Lower Left Podcast, 17th and Island. Johnny Be Good, Javier the X-Man, Bobby Ruiz, a.k.a. Bobby Tribal. And we're out.